Jake Mitchell came to with a groan, the kind that vibrated in his skull like a tuning fork struck too hard. The back of his head throbbed with the dull ache of unconsciousness, and the taste in his mouth was metal and dust. He'd cracked open one eye. Blue light, pulsing like the heartbeat of something enormous, spilled across polished walls that stretched into darkness above. The chamber was vast, no ceiling in sight, no corners, only smooth, impossible geometry. His military instincts kicked, and before his memory caught up, he ran a mental inventory. Boots still on, tactical pants intact, gray shirt damp with sweat, body uninjured. No weapons. He sat up slowly. Hundreds thousands of beings surrounded him, stirring like dazed. Ants disturbed from a hill. Not one of them human. Some towered twice his height, glistening with scales or armor, or flesh he didn't recognize. Others hovered. A few blinked too many eyes in his direction. All wore the same disoriented expression. One with translucent skin and a dozen twitching fingers, vomited up a fluorescent fluid before curling into a fetal position. Jake muttered, "Well, this ain't Kansas." A figure moved beside him with predator grace. Humanoid, yes, but only just female, or at least his brain labeled her that. She had silver-white hair, tied in a high tail that swung like a blade as she turned, and skin the color of burnished bronze. Her eyes were a brilliant violet, intense and unblinking. Her armor clung to her athletic frame with organic precision green and bronze, shimmering in the pulsing light. Danger radiated off her like heat from a reactor core. She looked down at him like one might observe a fossil. "You're awake," she said, her voice melodic but clipped, cool as carved crystal. "Name's Jake," he offered, hauling himself to his feet with a grunt. "You?" "TIA of the 8 Clan," she replied, as if that should explain everything. "Cool. Never heard of it." Her expression soured instantly. "You don't even know the Eretz, do you?" "I don't know where the hell I am, lady. Your space family reunion isn't exactly my priority right now." She sneered. Typical human. Crude, limited, obsolete. Before he could toss back the sarcastic reply forming on his tongue, the chamber trembled. The blue light intensified. A sound low, guttural, mechanical reverberated through the air. Then, in the center of the room, a massive holographic figure appeared. It was tall and impossibly thin, with elongated limbs and no discernible face. Just a smooth, blank oval. Its voice boomed from nowhere and everywhere. "Prisoners, you have been selected for the Labyrinth of Ascension. Many enter, none survive. Your deaths will serve a greater purpose. The trials begin now. Survive if you can." The panic was instant. Creatures shrieked in tongues Jake couldn't understand. Some tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The floor beneath them shifted with a grinding sound, segments rising and falling. Chasms opened. Walls grew from nowhere, forming a labyrinth before their eyes alive, changing, consuming. Jake didn't hesitate. Instinct overpowered fear. He sprinted toward the nearest rising platform, vaulted over a gap, rolled as it tilted beneath him, and landed in a low crouch. He shouted back at a group frozen in fear. "Move, damn it! Stay low, find high ground, watch for corners." TIA ignored him and leapt in another direction, vaulting with fluid grace. She didn't need help, but she made the mistake of landing near a chasm just as a seeker drone emerged from a wall. The orb was the size of a basketball, smooth and metallic, spinning blades unfolding like petals. Jake dove without thinking. He tackled her sideways just as the drone screamed past, slicing the air where her head had been. She shoved him off with a hiss. "Do not touch me, primitive." "You're welcome," he snapped, rolling to his feet. "Next time I'll let you get ventilated." Another drone screamed into view, and without pause, Jake picked up a chunk of metal from the crumbling floor and hurled it with perfect aim. It slammed into the drone's side, knocking it off course. It exploded against a wall. T.I. watched him warily as they ran. "You seem to have some survival instinct." "At least," she allowed. Jake grinned. "High praise. I'll put it on my tombstone if we die in here." They ran together now, not quite allies, but no longer strangers. As walls closed and reformed, and drones hunted with humming death, Jake noticed the subtle change in her eyes when she followed his lead, not out of desperation, but respect. She didn't say it aloud, but in the way she covered his flank. He could feel it. He wasn't just another primitive anymore. The corridor they ducked into twisted immediately, the walls shifting behind them, like the inside of a mechanical throat closing in. Jake pressed his hand against the cool, metal-veined wall and breathed through clenched teeth. The sound of panicked screams still echoed faintly behind them. Somewhere, more drones sliced through the air. The maze wasn't done with them. TIA stood a few feet ahead, her chest rising and falling beneath her armored plating. She didn't look winded, but her jaw was tight. Her violet eyes scanned their surroundings with practiced caution. Jake exhaled. "So, this is what your people call a welcome tour?" She shot him a glance that bordered on amused. "The Watchers don't welcome. They study. They test. They break." Jake stepped beside her, watching the walls flicker with faint blue. Light, symbols he didn't recognize blooming like scars across the surface. "And what exactly are they testing us for?" "Intelligence, adaptability, pattern recognition, survival under chaos." She said it like a scholar reciting from a textbook. "The Watchers are obsessed with how species solve problems under stress. It's their obsession." He gave her a sidelong look. "Nice to know we're part of someone's cosmic science fair project." Suddenly, the corridor groaned and began to tilt beneath their feet. Jake grabbed a protrusion on the wall for balance, but T.I., caught mid-step, slipped with a curse in her native tongue. Her boots scraped uselessly against the angled floor. As gravity yanked her toward the black pit yawning at the far end, Jake didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, throwing himself flat and catching her wrist inches before she dropped into the void. Her eyes went wide, not with fear, but shock as he grunted, bracing himself and hauling her back onto stable ground. They lay tangled for a heartbeat, breathing hard. Then she rolled off him, scowling. "I didn't ask for help." "No," Jake said, wiping sweat from his brow. "You just looked like you were about to audition for death by gravity." DIA's lips pressed into a line. She opened her mouth, probably to throw another insult, but didn't. Instead, she looked at him for a long moment. "You're fast." "For someone your size," Jake blinked. "That a compliment?" She stood, brushing herself off. An observation. He stood as well, glancing down the corridor, now stabilized. "Then observe this. We need to rest. Somewhere safe. We're not going to last long if we keep running on fumes." T.I. hesitated, then nodded. "There may be side alcoves. The Watchers like to give the illusion of mercy between trials." They moved again, deeper into the twisting, breathing maze. It wasn't just stone and steel, now veins of light ran, like capillaries through the walls, responding subtly to their movements. After several turns, they found a half-formed chamber more of a cul-de-sac tucked between two rising barriers. Jake scanned the area, then slumped down against the cool wall, exhaling. "I've been in some hellholes before, but this takes the prize." TIA remained standing, arms crossed. "Your people, Earth. You're not supposed to be here." Jake looked up at her. "Trust me, I didn't RSVP. No, I mean, the Watchers only select species advanced enough to threaten or intrigue them. Humanity is young, chaotic, undisciplined." He gave a tired grin. Yeah, we're pretty good at chaos. It's kind of our thing. She finally sat beside him, though not too close. Still, your tactics, your reactions. That move with the drone, you didn't even hesitate. Jake shrugged. Instinct. Training. Gut feelings. She considered. That, my people would have run probability matrices. Projected outcomes. You just act. Yeah, well, sometimes thinking too much gets you killed. He reached for the canteen at his side, frowned at its emptiness, and tossed it aside. TIA watched the gesture. There's a logic to your irrationality, she said quietly, almost to herself. Jake chuckled. Don't think too hard about it. You might catch human stupidity. Her lips twitched almost a smile. Too late. The moment hung their tension without fear, a flicker of something beginning. Then, the wall beside them vibrated faintly. Both of them tensed. A section of the wall ahead slid open with an eerie hiss, revealing a triangular doorway lined with red glowing symbols. Not blue. Jake stood slowly. I'm guessing that's not the exit. TIA's face had gone pale. No. It's a trial chamber. Any idea what's inside? She shook her head. Each one is different. Mental, physical. Sometimes both. Always lethal. Jake flexed his shoulders. Well, I'm already dressed for it. She looked at him again, really looked, and said, You should stay close to me, human. He offered a crooked smile. Wouldn't dream of being anywhere else. Together, they stepped toward the red-lit passage. Whatever waited beyond, it would test them in ways neither fully understood. But something had shifted between them already, something unspoken and undeniable. And for the first time, Jake didn't feel entirely alone in the dark. Asterisk. The air grew heavier the moment they crossed the threshold. The door hissed shut behind them, sealing with an audible finality that echoed through the vast circular chamber. No blue light here, only red, pulsing from veins in the walls like blood pumping through arteries. The floor was obsidian smooth, polished to a mirror shine. Every sound they made, every step, every breath reverberated unnaturally, as if the room itself was listening. In the center stood a monolith, squat and rectangular, covered in glowing glyphs that flickered in sequence. Jake approached cautiously, eyes scanning the room for traps. What is this? Another puzzle? T.I. stepped beside him, studying the symbols. A sequencing test. The Watchers love patterns. Their philosophy is built on universal order, entropy, creation, void, rebirth. Jake scratched his head. That's a lot of cosmic mumbo-jumbo. Got a manual? She gave him a sidelong look. Solve it correctly. The exit opens. Fail. And the floor becomes a furnace. Simple. Right. Lava death or enlightenment. No pressure. Tia's fingers danced over the panel, rearranging the glowing glyphs with confident precision. Jake watched, noting her focus, the way her jaw clenched ever so slightly when the symbols glitched red. The temperature beneath their boots was already rising slowly but unmistakably. TIA, he murmured. It's not working. I know, she snapped, trying a new sequence. I've studied Watcher architecture. This should be correct. Jake stepped back, taking in the whole room. The monolith. The walls, the red veins. Then his eyes caught something, a mirrored surface near the corner. The glyphs on the panel reflected backward. A simple trick. Or a cruel one. It's reversed, he said suddenly. Try the sequence backward. TIA hesitated, then obeyed. The panel flickered, then glowed green. A low rumble vibrated through the floor. The air shifted. A section of wall peeled back to reveal a corridor bathed once more in pulsing blue. Light, cool air rushed in. Jake grinned. Guess human stupidity has its moments. TIA stared at him, a muscle twitching in her jaw. "How did you notice that?" "Earth trick," he said. "Mirrors don't lie." But she wasn't looking at the mirror. She was looking at him, as if seeing him for the first time. They exited into a more stable corridor. The walls less alive here, more dormant. A rare moment of quiet. T.I. slumped against the wall, sliding down with a sigh. "You continue to surprise me, Jacob Earth." He chuckled and sat beside her, their shoulders almost touching. "Is that praise?" "It's acknowledgement." Her tone softened. "I misjudged you. My people see humans as volatile, undisciplined. But your instincts, they're efficient." He looked over at her. "Coming from a genetically superior space warrior, I'll take it." She met his gaze, and for the first time, there was warmth behind her violet eyes. Not amusement, not contempt, something deeper. Something cautious, but curious. Then the ground trembled hard. Dust trickled from the ceiling. Both were on their feet in an instant, weaponsless but alert. They weren't alone. From around a bend in the corridor came movement. Shadows, several of them. Dozens of beings in rough armor, eyes glowing faintly, scars carved into their skin like ritual brands. The leader, tall, reptilian, scaled like cracked stone, held a jagged staff of some strange alloy. T.I.'s eyes narrowed. The Dominion. Jake tilted his head. Sounds friendly. They're not. Prisoners who survived the longest. Formed a hierarchy. They prey on newcomers. Turn survival into rule. The group fanned out, blocking the passage. Jake counted 20, maybe more. No weapons, but those scars suggested they didn't need them. The reptilian leader approached. "New blood," he hissed. His gaze lingered on Jake's watch. "The human is unexpected." Jake stepped forward. "We're just passing through, not looking for a fight. No one passes without tribute or trial." Behind him, several of the Dominion began to circle. TIA instinctively moved closer. Her body half-angled in front of Jake. Then, Jake's watch beeped. It wasn't loud, but it carried. The display glitched, then pulsed with a strange, soft light. The Dominion leader froze. "The mark," he whispered. "The human bears the signal of the Watchers." A hush fell. Some in the group dropped to one knee. Others simply backed away. Jake looked at TIA, confused. She leaned in. "Let them believe it. The Watchers have chosen you. Use it." He nodded, slowly turning to face the leader. "I carry their signal. I've seen the path to the center." The reptilian narrowed his glowing eyes. "Then prove it. Undergo the rite. If you are truly chosen, the key of ascension will reveal itself to you." Jake exhaled slowly. "And if I'm not?" The leader grinned, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. "You'll never leave this place." T.I. stepped forward, eyes fierce. "Then he will. Because he is more than chosen." The Dominion parted before them, forming a path toward a glowing corridor lined with golden light. Jake glanced at her as they began walking. "That thing you said back there about me being chosen, you believe it?" "I believe," she said, without looking back, "that you've done more with a watch and instinct than entire civilizations have with generations of technology. And you? I'll go where you go." As the corridor swallowed them in golden light, Jake reached out and took her hand. Just for a moment, the walls pulsed in response, as if they approved. The golden-lit corridor narrowed as they moved. Deeper, the walls curving in tight concentric rings like the throat of some ancient beast. The air shimmered faintly with residual energy, and Jake felt it humming against his skin, tugging at the hairs on his arms. T.I. walked beside him in silence, her fingers brushing against the back of his hand once, and withdrawing. Whether it was by accident or design, she didn't say. Ahead, the passage opened into a massive dome-shaped chamber, unlike any they had seen so far. The walls were no longer stone or metal, but translucent, shot through with glowing circuitry like veins. Beneath skin, the light here wasn't blue or red. It was white, pure, and silent. As if the room itself held its breath. In the center stood a pedestal carved from obsidian, floating a few inches off the ground. Upon it, a single crystalline shard softly, pulsing with pale gold light. Jake slowed. That it? TIA nodded, her voice barely a whisper. The key of ascension. He took a cautious step forward, eyes scanning the floor for traps. Feels too easy. It isn't. She turned her face slightly, and Jake noticed the tension in her shoulders. This chamber has a reputation. It's called the Chamber of Echoes. Why's that? TIA met his eyes. It reflects your fears. As if summoned by her words, the lights dimmed. Shadows peeled from the walls like liquid smoke and began to swirl around them. Shapes coalesced, not watchers, not drones but people. Jake's breath caught. The shadows took form. Men and women in worn combat gear. Faces he hadn't seen in years. Friends, teammates, the dead. They looked at him with broken eyes. Accusing, bleeding. No, he muttered. This isn't real. Beside him, T.I. gasped, her own specters had emerged. Warriors in armor, like hers, many wounded, some crumbling to dust. One reached for her. You failed us, TIA. Jake turned and grabbed her wrist. They're not real. None of it's real, but the room made it feel otherwise. The voices echoed in their minds. Every trauma, every regret twisted into knives and turned against them. Jake's pulse pounded. His breath shortened. He remembered the cave ambush on Galash Prime, the civilians who didn't make it out. A mission he never speaks of. TIA was shaking now, her eyes locked on the ghost of what must have been a sibling silver-haired like her, with blood down one side of her face. Jake squeezed her hand. Look at me. Don't look at them. Focus. On me. TIA turned, violet eyes wide, filled with grief. He pressed his forehead gently against hers. We get through this together. She nodded, breathing raggedly. The shadows screamed, but it sounded like wind. The moment they stopped feeding them fear, the illusions thinned. The floor began to glow beneath their feet. The key pulsed brighter. Jake stepped toward it, his hand out. Two identical keys now sat on the pedestal. What the hell? Jake whispered. Which one's real? T.I. scanned them quickly. This is another trial. One is a gift. The other is a trap. He looked between them. One key seemed to reflect the ambient light, perfectly glowing, soft and warm. The other looked darker, its core cloudy, as though it drank in the light and refused to get it back. He took a breath. Light over darkness, he said, and picked the glowing one. The moment his fingers closed around it, the room shuddered. Shadows howled, and then exploded outward into mist, fading into nothingness. The second key crumbled into black ash. The pedestal vanished, and the white light turned blue again. TIA exhaled. You chose correctly. Jake held up the key. Just a hunch. They didn't have long to rest. A distant alarm began to blare, a deep, mechanical wail reverberating through the walls. The Dominion was gone, but the Watchers weren't. Jake's watch buzzed sharply against his wrist. The display lit up with a new overlay, this time not a simple map, but a live schematic of the labyrinth. Moving dots, gateways, energy signatures. One line pulsing in gold. He turned to TIA. I think I've got something. What is it? He tapped the screen. A path. This key activated a new layer of the maze. Look. TIA leaned close, scanning the map. Her breath caught. That leads to the Nexus. Jake blinked. What's the Nexus? It's myth. A place the Watchers use to view across realities. Dimensional cores. It's their control center. Jake grinned. So if we get there, we could end the labyrinth, or we could be erased from existence. Awesome. I love a 50/50th shot. She looked at him. You sure about this? He turned to her, watching her silver hair catch the glow of the shifting walls. Her expression caught between fear and determination. I'm not leaving this place without you. If this is the way, out we take it. Her lips parted slightly. And then, without warning, a high-pitched whine filled the chamber. Out of the far wall, sleek silver drones emerged, not the clunky seeker orbs from before. These were sharp-edged, precise, alive. Red lights blinked across their bodies. Tia's expression darkened. Hunter drones. The Watcher's elite. The drones hovered for a split second, then scanned them both. Ti's scan turned green. Jake's flashed red dot target identified. Human specimen. Priority acquisition. Jake barely had time to react before the first drone lunged. Energy blade extending. Tia yanked him down. Run! They tore through the corridor, his watch flashing with navigation updates. Drones tearing after them with slicing shrieks. Jake didn't look back. He was running on instinct, now through shifting halls of light and death. Clutching. The key in one hand and the alien warrior's hand in the other. Behind them, the maze was waking up, and it was angry. Asterisk, the corridor blurred around them in a streak of blue and silver as Jake and Tia sprinted, their boots slamming against the shifting floor. The hunter drones chased in ruthless silence, sleek, predatory, surgical in their speed. Every few seconds, the hum of energy pulses surged behind them, followed by the scorched crackle of plasma slamming into walls where Jake had just been. The labyrinth itself responded, walls shifting, doors opening and closing in rapid succession, alive in its hatred of their survival. Jake's lungs burned. The key pulsed hot in his hand. His military watch blinked, a frantic rhythm flashing. New navigation data faster than his brain could keep up. But he didn't stop. This way. He shouted, pulling TIA down a left corridor, just as a bolt of white-hot energy disintegrated the stone behind them. TIA stumbled, her injured legs slowing her now. Her face was pale, but her grip on his arm was iron. Jake, she gasped. Can't keep this pace. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed her by the waist and swung her up onto his back, her surprised cry cut off as he ran faster. You're not dying in this metal death maze, Tia. Not today. She clutched his shoulders, her breath hot against his neck. You're heavier than you look. Yeah? You're taller than you look. And I still carried you. A glowing crack opened in the floor ahead. Jake didn't flinch. He leapt, barely clearing it, and rolled when he landed. The drones hesitated for a moment behind them, calculating. One surged forward. Almost there, he growled. The watch beeped sharply and projected a holographic interface against the wall, a shimmering circle of light. The Nexus icon glowed in its center. Jake skidded to a stop before it, panting. This is it. TIA slid off his back, standing on shaky legs. The Nexus lies beyond, but the Watchers won't let us reach it. As if summoned, the floor ahead slid apart, revealing a massive chamber lit by a swirling vortex of color and gravity. A circular platform hovered above the energy well, lined with consoles humming with unreadable data. The Nexus, a portal made not of tech, but of intent, bending time and reality itself into a visible spiral of stars. Jake stepped forward and was immediately hit by an energy net from behind. He collapsed with a cry, twitching his current course. Through him, Jake. TIA turned, only to be struck by another pulse of energy. She dropped to her knees as Sentinel's 7-foot-tall humanoid, machines with smooth silver bodies and blank faces, emerged from the floor and walls. More terrifying than drones, they moved with eerie grace. Human specimen acquired, said one in a cold, mechanical tone. Prepare for dissection. TIA struggled upright, blood dripping down her leg. No, you'll take neither of us. Jake fought against the restraints, trying to rise. One sentinel lifted him effortlessly by the throat. Resistance is inefficient. Through the pain and fury, Jake saw it. The key in his hand still glowed, vibrating in rhythm with his watch. They were sinking again. Let's see what you really do, he gasped. He slammed the key into the sentinel's chest. A shockwave exploded from the impact. The sentinel convulsed and collapsed, twitching violently before going still. Jake dropped to his knees, coughing. The restraints around him flickered, then vanished. He didn't wait. He surged to his feet, scooped up the key, and ran to Tia. She was struggling to stand, her violet eyes wide with pain. Jake, she whispered, you can't fight them all. I'm not going to. He ripped the damaged watch from his wrist and connected it to the Nexus console, using a torn wire from the fallen sentinel. I'm going to hack their goddamn system. The console flared to life. A moment the watch's interface merged. With the alien controls, the room shook. Colors shifted violently across the vortex. Schematics appeared of the entire labyrinth. Prisoners, traps, drones. Everything. TI stared in disbelief. You're inside their system. Jake's fingers flew. He decrypted what he could. If I reroute power here and override the suppression locks, the consoles lit green. Across the labyrinth, doors slid open. Prisoners scattered in. Dark chambers suddenly saw light. The Dominion's slaves were free. Traps fell silent. Jake found Tia's signal on the schematic. Then he found his own. Then he found the Nexus core, a control node tied directly to dimensional travel. The only real exit. Jake, Ti said breathlessly, you're rewriting the labyrinth. I'm cheating, he corrected. It's what I do. The sentinels surged forward, but before they reached them, Jake activated a containment field. A shimmering wall of energy sealed them off inside the console platform. Alarms screamed in multiple languages. Containment breach. Protocol override. System destabilization imminent. The Nexus portal flared with color. Jake turned to TIA. This is it. We can go. We can be free. She stepped closer, her hand finding his. Wherever it takes us, we go together. He nodded. Together. The key vibrated wildly, now pulsing with golden light. Jake entered the final command. Coordinates locked. Portal engaged. The floor beneath them glowed white. Ti wrapped her arm around him. Do you trust me? With everything. Then jump. They leapt into the vortex, just as the chamber exploded in light. There was no up, no down, only spinning. Stars and burning silence, and the weightlessness of stepping outside the universe itself. Solid ground. Air. Sky. Jake staggered forward, blinking at the golden horizon. Twin suns burned above them, and before him, a city of impossible towers rose like glass grown from the earth, bridges floating on air, trees glowing with internal light. Where are we? Jake whispered. Ti looked up, tears streaking down her face. Aerith, she said. My home. He turned to her slowly. We made it, she smiled, trembling. You made it. She leaned in, pressing her forehead to his. He closed his eyes, feeling her breath, her warmth. A silence of survival. And somewhere far beyond the sky, a watcher observed the impossible escape. Its smooth face shifted. Subject 42A. Human anomaly. Earth species reclassified. Asterisk. The air on Aerith tasted different, cleaner, richer, humming with energy. Jake stood still for a long moment, letting the twin suns warm his skin while the world spun around him. A gentle breeze whispered through silver-leafed trees nearby. and beneath their feet stretched a crystalline plateau overlooking a city that defied gravity. TIA stepped to his side, her face soft with emotion. "I never thought I'd see this again." The city Valseren, she called it, rose like a dream made solid. Towers shaped like blades of grass reached into the lavender sky, each one shimmering with faint bioluminescence. Bridges twisted between them like ribbons of light, some arcing with gravity-defying curves. The buildings weren't built, they grew, alive with tech and stone woven as one. Jake exhaled. If Earth looked like this, we'd never shut up about it. TIA laughed softly, and it wasn't a sound of caution or defense. It was real, freeing. He looked over at her and smiled, brushing a wind-swept strand of silver hair from her face. "We made it." Her violet eyes met his. "Because of you." They descended the mountain path together, each step down the slope, awakening more of the city's hidden defenses. Soft pulses of energy scanned them, tested them. TI's presence deactivated each one, and Jake stayed close. When they reached the edge of the city, a group of armored figures stood waiting. All 8. "All stunned to see her? Sentinel TI?" One gasped. "We thought you were dead." "I was taken," she replied formally, standing straighter despite her injury. "By the Watchers. I escaped with him." Every helmet turned to Jake, the human, the outsider. He gave a small wave. "Hey." The guards didn't move, but their expressions shifted. Not hostility, just awe, curiosity. One finally stepped aside. "Elder Ka will want to hear this himself." They escorted the pair through curved halls of living metal and smooth stone that sang faintly when touched. The city was vibrant with life children, with silver braids chased glowing orbs. Merchants guided floating carts, and everywhere, the buzz of a civilization so far beyond Earth that Jake felt like he was living in someone else's dream. Finally, they reached the council hall, a circular chamber carved into the side of a hovering plateau suspended above the city. At its center stood a semicircle of 8 elders, cloaked in shades of indigo and ivory, their hair braided in complex patterns. Of rank and lineage, Thaye stepped forward and bowed. Asterisk. "I request audience with the council. I bring a witness, and proof." Their leader, Elder Ka, rose. He was tall, with eyes the same color as TI's, but weathered by centuries. His voice was low and measured. "You disappeared into the void. Many mourned you. And now you return with a human?" TIA didn't flinch. "He is more than human. He escaped the Watcher's labyrinth." A ripple of disbelief spread through the chamber. "No one escapes," another elder said. Jake stepped forward and held up his military wristwatch. "Well, no one used this before." Elder Ka looked at the device with distaste. "Primitive." "Effective," TIA countered sharply. "He overrode the labyrinth's core systems, freed the prisoners, activated the nexus." "He cheated," Jake added with a grin. A long silence followed. Then Elder Ka tilted his head. "Sometimes cheating is survival." The mood shifted. The tension melted, just slightly. Ka nodded. To his attendants, "Prepare a residence for them, and alert the Interstellar Observatory. The Watchers will notice." Later that night, Jake stood on the balcony of their assigned quarters, an elegant tower nestled among bio-grown spires, glowing with subtle amber light. The stars stretched across the sky like threads of silver. TIA joined him, a loose wrap falling from her shoulders. She leaned on the rail beside him, looking up. "They'll come, won't they?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "The Watchers don't like anomalies. You disrupted their control." "I didn't mean to. I just didn't want to die." She turned to face him. "You didn't just survive, Jake. You rewrote the ending." He looked at her for a long moment. "What now?" She smiled. Now you meet my family. Help prepare my people. And eventually, we send word to your world. His eyes widened. Earth? You think we can connect? We must, she said. If the Watchers escalate, we need allies. And your people? They're chaotic, passionate, stubborn, and now proven. He chuckled, then stepped closer. TIA. She tilted her head. Yes, human? He kissed her gently this time, without the desperation of a collapsing maze. When they parted, she whispered, You and your sneaky earth tricks? Jake leaned his forehead to hers. Best one yet? Far above, beyond the reach of Aerith skies, Watcher eyes opened again. Data streams pulsed. Simulations shattered. Across a dozen dimensions, the name Mitchell Jacob echoed like a glitch in the code of the universe. One observer turned to another and said, without voice or emotion, they were not supposed to win. The other replied, and yet they did. And somewhere, deep in the swirling matrix of the multiverse, Earth flickered into focus classified no longer as pre-contact, but as variable prime. A world of chaos, of instinct, of resistance got a world. To be watched more closely. End asterisk.